Hello everybody, this is Unit 1, video lecture number 2. Unit 1, video lecture number 2. Now, we're under Roman numeral 1 on your notes outline, your lecture outline. We've covered letters A through G. Now let's talk about H. Now I've touched on H a little bit as well, but very briefly just to kind of recap, India was very important to the people of Europe at the time, because in India were the spices that the people saw as so valuable. Those spices made life good, made food good, and life good therefore for these folks. Okay, so this is a very valuable commodity. Now, you may be wondering by now, how did they even know about India? How did they know about spices? You know, people didn't travel then like they do now. Very few people had ever been to India from Europe. If you want to look at where we're at, you see Europe on the map on page 408. You see Europe there. And further to the right is India. Okay. Now, the Portuguese, they sail around Africa to get there. Seems like the long way to go. We're talking about sailing ships that travel by wind power. Okay. Maybe it'd be quicker. Maybe it'd be a better route to go across land through Europe, across that area that is today the countries of Iran and Iraq, to India. Now this is a very difficult journey because of a couple of things. One thing, in northern India we find the world's most rugged mountain range, the Himalayas. Okay, the Europeans crossing the Himalayas was a very difficult task to say the least. Also, there are deserts in between Europe and northern India. So getting there geographically was very difficult. Moreover, this was a region of the world that was not controlled by Europeans. In fact, it was controlled by people who really didn't like Europeans very much at all. It was controlled by, at various different times, various different Islamic or Muslim empires. Okay? And these Muslim empires, they were willing to sell spices to the Europeans, okay, for a very, very high price, okay. That brings us to letter I under Roman numeral 1, okay. The Muslims charged an exorbitant rate for accessing these Indian spices. They charged them a very, very high fee for either getting there, which was unlikely, or which was a little bit more likely, buying the things from the Muslims. Okay, and so the Muslims had a monopoly on the spice trade up until the Portuguese make this great accomplishment of finding a way to sail to India. So even though it looks like a really, really long trip to ride a ship around Africa to reach India, it was a preferable way to get there, because the Europeans didn't like the Muslims either. That all goes back to World Civ I and the Crusades and kind of how the animosity between European Christians and Arab Muslims developed. Okay, so what happened was the Portuguese actually broke the Muslim monopoly on the spice trade by accessing India by sea, by sailing around Africa. Okay. Alright, I'm going to stop there. We'll start Roman numeral 2 with the next video.